Amendment, please.
Representative Saunders offered the following amendment. Barcode 814323, remove line 950 and insert an amendment.
Representative Saunders, you're recognized to explain your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this amendment addresses what may be the most troubling portion of the personal learning account voucher for me. The section that remits a parent's rights to the protections of federal law and the Individuals with Disabilities and Education Act. As written, and as we've discussed already, this bill relinquishes the Florida Department of Education and a school district's federally directed responsibilities under the IDEA without shifting that burden to the SFO, to the private school, or the private provider. IDEA is considered a hallmark piece of legislation for the civil and educational rights of disabled students. The IDEA lays out an expansive set of rights for ESC students, including the right to a free and appropriate public education, which means that in public school, whether it costs $500 or $5,000, that school district and that school will provide services to provide a quality education. IDEA makes it clear that students have the right to an education in the least restrictive environment. That means that students who are disabled cannot be segregated into corners. They must, whenever possible, be fully integrated into able-bodied classrooms. And finally, one more incredibly important right, the right to an accessible infrastructure, the right in a school to be able to, no matter your physical disability, have access to classrooms and access to technology. When a parent takes this voucher for their student and leaves, we make very clear in this bill that they relinquish all rights and protections that are provided to them under federal law and IDEA. And what this amendment says very simply is that before that moment can happen, we will get written consent and a written acknowledgement that they have been explained their rights under IDEA and explained that they have taken this voucher, moved out of public schools, and lost the federal protections that come. I urge you to support this amendment.
Questions of the sponsor? Questions of the sponsor? Are there amendments to the amendment?
None on the desk, Mr. Speaker.
Are there substitute amendments?
None on the desk, Mr.
Is there
Speaker.
debate? Representative Baxley, in debate, you're recognized.
Thank you. I've quietly listened to this attack this amendment makes on parents making choices. Who do you think wants to make these choices? I'm a father of a child with limitations. I know what it is to sit in IEPs. I know what it is to try desperately to figure out something for your kid that works. And to be restrained by a system that you insist they be chained to or be identical to when they're the ones that want the freedom. Let people have some freedom. That's all scholarships do. That's what we do with colleges. Why do you insist on chaining these parents, these children to a process if it's not working for them? This is a liberating bill. Your amendment only ties more chains to those parents and those children. You're not helping them. You're hurting them because you're taking away their freedom to make a different choice. This kind of amendment is not in their best interest. And folks, it's time to let people loose. Give them some freedom to make some choices that will make a real difference in their lives. Please oppose this amendment.
Additional debate. Representative Danish, in debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Obviously, people aren't getting quite what this is all about. This is not taking away anyone's freedom. Their freedom is still going to be there. But what this is going to do is inform parents. That's all this is doing. That's all this amendment is about, is telling parents, look, this part of the IEP isn't being met. These services aren't being met. You need to be aware. An aware parent will be able to make a better decision and get better outcomes for their child, not a less of an outcome, and it won't restrict them at all. What it's going to do is succeed in letting these parents know, oh, wow, this part of voucher, I'm getting funded for this. I'm not getting this part met. Therefore, I have to go get from another source that part of the IEP met. And that's all this bill is addressing. And I thank you for this good amendment.
Additional debate. Representative Bielek, in debate. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before a parent of a special needs child makes a choice to take their child out of public school, most of the time, if not all of the time, they have made a choice and they have visited dozens and dozens and dozens of schools in the area that best accommodate their child's needs. No one in this chamber knows the needs of that child better than its own parent. So that's the first choice. Second, after all of this, if they make a choice that's not suiting the needs for their child, they could come back. That's the ultimate right. And yes, the money does follow the child back into the public school. So I urge you to oppose this amendment because these parents, ultimately under this scholarship program, have what should be available to all parents, the ability to make a choice that's best for their child.
Additional debate. Representative Wallman in debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's interesting what you just said. I mean, you're saying that the parent knows the best how to handle the educational needs of the child. And the reality is, unless that parent is some type of a professional in the education field, they don't know what's best. They know that they want the best for their child. That they definitely do. I don't think anybody in here who has a child doesn't want the best for that child. But none of us here, though we do have a PhD over here, Dr. Castor Dental, and there may be others in here, maybe they can make assessments. But I can tell you this, just being a lawyer doesn't make me qualified to say what is best for my child who has a special need. I want an expert to tell me.
Additional debate. Representative Saunders, you're recognized to close on your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I heard this amendment just characterized as an attack. I heard it characterized as chains on students. And I'm reminded of a 3-year debate we had in this chamber about the importance of empowering parents and how so many different members in the front rows and the back rows stood up over and over again to talk about how it's our responsibility as policymakers to make sure that parents have the information that they need about their kids and the schools that they go to, and how they need to be empowered to make choices. This amendment does one thing and one thing only. It says that if we are going to empower a parent to make this choice for their student with a disability, some of the most profoundly disabled students in our state, that we will meet our obligation to ensuring that they have the information that they need to know that all of the protections that come from federal law are now lost to them. That the second they take this voucher and go to a private school or go to a private provider, they've lost the federal requirement that that school have a wheelchair accessible front door. That school have an obligation, whether it costs $500 or $500,000, to provide them services. They've lost that. That is the requirement of public schools. That's the commitment that we make to them the second they enter a public school door. So all this says is make sure they know and get it in writing. I urge you to support this very good amendment.
Members, all those in favor of the adoption of the amendment say yea. Yea. Opposed, no. No. Show the amendment not adopted. Seeing 5 hands, clerk will unlock the machine and members proceed to vote. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Clerk will lock the machine and announce the vote.
42 yeas, 73 nays, Mr.
Show the
Speaker.
amendment fails. Read the next amendment, please.